Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today it's time for my GarbAugust TBR. So as you hopefully know, my reading event GarbAugust takes place in August and is dedicated to the joy of reading trashy books. As you've seen there, I've got a big pile of them to get through. I am going to be reading pretty much 100% trash during August. I've got a couple of kind of buddy reads and group reads, which I'm probably going to be doing as well, which may distract me from the trash, but certainly my diet is going to be at least 90% trash. So I've got a few paperbacks to go through with you today, and also a few books I'm going to be reading on Kindle. As hopefully you've seen, there are some prompts to help people understand the kind of books they might want to read for GarbAugust. There is no requirement or obligation for people to stick to all of these prompts. GarbAugust is supposed to be as easy as possible. It's just about reading some trashy books. So the bingo card and the weekly prompts are there more as a guide than anything else. Now that said, because I'm me, I'm going to try and, well, I'm certainly going to do all of the weekly prompts, and I'm also going to try and tick off all the squares on the GarbAugust card, of which there are a lot. Now, what you can do on the GarbAugust card is double dip. So you can use one book to satisfy more than one square, and I'm certainly going to be doing that because I don't think there's any way to do it otherwise. So let me talk through the books with you and let you know what I'm going to be reading. And with each one, I will tell you which weekly prompt or GarbAugust card square it relates to. So first up we have, for the Jackie Collins square on the GarbAugust card, and I guess this would probably also cover the Vintage Smut week, which is week 2, The Stud by Jackie Collins. So this is I don't know if it was her first book, it's certainly one of her early books. I've read Hollywood Wives by her, which I really enjoyed. Haven't read this one yet, but it sounds like a lot of fun. So it's about a nightclub, I think, where all sorts of saucy shenanigans go on. Next up then, so the second GarbAugust card prompt that I'm going to talk about is Killer Kids. So I'm actually going true crime for this one, and I'm going to read the book that I suggested from Kindle Unlimited in the video I did with suggestions for books people might want to consider the other day. So this is a book called Killer Kids, 10 Cases of Kids Who Killed Their Parents by an author called Johnny Cassidy. So I've chosen this one for a couple of reasons. So firstly, I do find sometimes true crime distasteful, and I wanted to kind of explore that. And this book definitely looks kind of quite cheap and exploitative, dare I say it. But I was less troubled by the idea of reading books about kids who killed their parents rather than kids who killed other kids. Now for this prompt, obviously you can read Killer Kids fiction, of which there is plenty, but I thought I'd go true crime, as I said. The other thing that appealed to me about it is Johnny Cassidy, the name of the author, sounds to me like a kind of 70s pop star or something like that. I don't think he was a 70s pop star, but yeah, it definitely has that ring to it, doesn't it, that name? Right, next up then we have the Sexy Vampire square on the GarbAugust card. So for this one I'm going to go with one of the OG Sexy Vampire books, Guilty Pleasures by Laurel K. Hamilton, the first in her Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series, which I've been meaning to read for like decades and never quite got around to. So I've just ordered a physical copy of that off eBay, and we'll be diving into that for that Sexy Vampire prompt. Okay, next we've got my trump card, my ace in the hole. So this is a book that not only covers one of the weekly prompts, but also covers no less than 5 of the squares on the GarbAugust card. So the book is The Big and Mist by William Hegner. So this is my pick for Vintage Smut for week 2, but also it covers the Dirty Book by GarbAugust card prompt. It's a book with nudity on the cover. It's a book I'd be ashamed to read in public. It has a cigarette ad in it. In fact, it's got 2. So it's got one for Newport cigarettes and one for a brand I've never heard of called True. And it's also got green on the cover, so it covers the Pax Panic Central Square on the GarbAugust card as well. So yeah, really pleased with that one. Next up then, for the Richard Lehman square on the GarbAugust card, I'm going to be reading his book Your Secret Admirer. which is, I think, a kind of teen romance, which sounds like a very strange thing for Richard Lehman to have written, given that he normally wrote trashy horror. This also I'm going to use for the pseudonym, or sorry, book published under a pseudonym square on the GarbAugust card, because it was originally published under the name of, I think it was Carla Lehman, rather than Richard Lehman. Right, next then we have for both the Men's Adventure week and the read a book from a series with more than 100 entries. We have book, what is it? I think it's book 18. Yeah, book 18 in the Executioner series by Don Pendleton. This is Texas Storm. So I'm reading these Executioner books in order at the moment, and have been for a while. So yeah, looking forward to diving into the next instalment. Next up we have shifter romances. So I've gone Kindle Unlimited for this one because there are a ton of shifter romances on Kindle Unlimited. I wanted to read, because it occurs to me that the vast majority of shifter romances seem to be books where the male character in the romance is the shifter. So I wanted to try and find one with a female shifter rather than a male shifter. And I've ended up with a book called The Gargoyle Gets a Girlfriend by Calandra Hunter, which is book 1 in the Park Rangers shifter series. So this is a lesbian shifter romance where one of the partners, as the title suggests, is a gargoyle. So that sounds like it might be interesting. Right, next up we have Gangs. So for that one, I'm going to go with The Shrewsdale Exit by John Buell, which I picked up recently. So this, I believe, is about a family who run afoul of a gang, and the husband of that family then trying to get revenge. So very much looking forward to that one. I've been wanting to read this one for ages. Next up then, so this one ticks off 3 things. So for the Paperbacks from Hell week, for the Satanist, so read a book with Satanist prompt on the GarbAugust card, and also the Moral Panic square on the GarbAugust card, because it kind of cashed in on the Satanic Panic, and it's also our group read for the month. So it does also tick off the PAX square, because it's a book that PAX read last year. So the book is The Devil's Laughter by William W. Johnstone. So really looking forward to that one. Okay, next up then we have Conspiracy Theory. So for that one, I've got a book by Sean Hudson, The Visitation. So I've got this omnibus edition of Sean Hudson books, which can be picked up quite cheaply. You can get it for like £5, I think. And there's one thing that's really important about this book, which has got nothing to do with The Visitation, but I'll share it now. So one of Sean Hudson's most notorious books is a book called Chainsaw Terror, which is really, really difficult to come by. It was only printed in a limited run, and then the publisher withdrew it, and it ended up getting reprinted with another title, which was Come the Night. Now, the urban myth is that Chainsaw Terror and Come the Night are slightly different, that Come the Night was censored. I don't believe that's the case. I've got copies of both of the original paperbacks of those, and I've compared them, and I don't think there's any censorship in Come the Night at all. The version of Come the Night that's in this omnibus then is exactly the same book, I believe, as you would get if you track down an expensive copy of Chainsaw Terror. So just a little tip there. So anyway, Sean Hudson also wrote under the pseudonym Frank Taylor a couple of UFO books, so The Abduction and The Visitation. So these are actually books 2 and 3 in a series. The first book, which I forget the name of now, is a supposedly true one. I don't think it's actually true, but it's supposedly true. And then the publisher got Sean Hudson, writing as Frank Taylor, to write a couple of sequels to it, which are purely made up. Now, hilariously, this omnibus edition publishes those two books out of order. So The Visitation is book 2 in that series, and The Abduction is book 3. But as you can see, the first book that's actually in this volume is book 3. I've got no idea why they did that. It does seem quite strange. So anyway, looking forward to that one anyway. Sean Hudson is a favourite author of mine, and I've not read either of those. Right, next up then, we have the Vigilante square on the GarbAugust card. So for this one, I'm actually going to read a comic. I'm going to read Vigilante by Marv Wolfman. So I had at least one issue of this, which I had back as a kid. And even then, I thought it was nonsense. I thought it was kind of over the top, slightly right-wing Vigilante rubbish with like loads of action and no real plot. But anyway, the collected edition of all of them is on Kindle Unlimited, so I thought I would give that a try and see if as a 50-year-old my view is still the same as it was when I was 14. Okay, next up then we have a book with a step back cover. So for this one I'm going to go with The Bog by Michael Talbot, which you could also use for the Paperbacks from Hell one. So a step back cover is one where there is like a false cover. So this looks like it's just the cover, but when you open it up you realise this is actually a little cutout. And you've got an even creepier image behind it. So this is supposed to be really good. So looking forward to that one. Next then we have a book with an exclamation mark in the title. So this is going to be a reread for me. I have read this book before and I've been wanting to reread it for ages. It's Raise the Titanic by Clive Cussler, one of the early books in the Dirk Pitt series. I think it's book 3 or 4. So I read this like years and years ago and really enjoyed it. It's my favourite, or I remember it being my favourite of the Dirk Pitt books, of which I've read most of the ones that were just written by Clive Cussler rather than the co-written ones. So yeah, really looking forward to diving into that again. And you can see the exclamation mark, present and correct. And I think it's just such a trashy concept as well. So our obsession with the Titanic, has been seen with tragic effect recently, is still strong, and I love the idea of someone trying to raise the Titanic. So looking forward to that one. Next up then we have a book based on a video game. So with this one I'm going to be reading an erotic short story from Kindle Unlimited that I've been wanting to read for ages, and that is Taken by the Tetris Blocks by Leonard Delaney. So a book about a woman who has, I don't know what, does something with some Tetris blocks. So we shall see what that's like. Next up then we have a book set in a hospital. And I can also use this for the category romance week, which is week 1. So I'm going to go with Celebrity Sweet Nurse by Suzanne Roberts. This is a really lovely vintage Ace Paperbacks edition about a nurse who works in a celebrity suite and has a romance with a singing idol by the sound of it. So looking forward to that. Okay, next we have a killer animal book. So this is one that one of the other hosts read last year, Snow Shark by Brian Berry, which just sounds like a ton of fun. So it's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm gonna grab that and give it a read. Next we have the Jilly Cooper square on the GarbAugust card. So I don't know how big Jilly Cooper was internationally, but in the UK she was huge for a while. And her most famous book is the one I'm going to be reading, which is Riders, which is a bonkbuster, a kind of saucy romp with I think a bit of comedy and a lot of sex, about the kind of show jumping horse riding circuit. It is, however, 929 pages long, so I might leave this one for last, just in case I can't fit it in, because that is a big old book. Okay, next we have a weirdly specific, a book with a weirdly specific like title or subject. So for this one I'm going to go with The Blacksmith's Mail-Order Bride by Cindy Caldwell, which is a book I picked up cheap on Kindle. In fact, I think it was free on Kindle the other day. I love that kind of type of romance book that almost tells you the plot of the book in the title. And I do like the idea that it's a blacksmith. In particular, I don't know why the blacksmith part of it definitely appeals to me, so yeah, looking forward to that. Next we have the VC Andrews square. So I've decided to go all the way back to the beginning with VC Andrews and read Flowers in the Attic. I have read it before, but it was quite a while ago. I remember thinking it was absolutely fantastic, so really looking forward to that. Next we have for the novelization week, which I think is week 3, isn't it? So yeah, week 3 is I didn't say the weeks at the start, so let me just say what the weeks are. So week 1 is men's adventure or category romance. Week 2 is paperbacks from hell or vintage smut. Week 3 is a book by a celebrity or a novelization, and then week 4 and week 5, because there are kind of 5 weeks in August, is anything goes. So for novelization, I'm not going with a novelization of a movie. I'm not going with a novelisation of a video game. I'm not even going with a novelisation of a TV show. I'm going with a novelisation of an advert. So this is another one that will probably be more familiar to people in the UK than in the US. But in the, I guess it was it late 80s? Oh no, early 90s in the UK, a coffee, Nescafe Gold Blend, And thinking about it, reading something related to Nescafe is a bit trashy as well, isn't it? So Nescafe Gold Blend did a fairly long-running series of adverts which told the story of this couple gradually falling in love over their instant coffee, and it was like something of a cultural phenomenon. It was quite a big deal. So big a deal, in fact, that someone called Susanna James was hired to write a book based on the adverts. I have read this, I'm ashamed to say. So I read this back when it came out because I thought it was such a wonderfully trashy concept. I can't remember at all what it was like, but I'm looking forward to diving into it again and rediscovering the joy of the Gold Blend romance. I'll have to check and see if the adverts are on YouTube. I expect they are. So if they are, when I read this book, I'll have to rewatch the adverts as well. And then finally, a book by a celebrity. So for this one, I'm going to read When She Was Bad by the actress Kate O'Mara, who was in like some Hammer movies and Dynasty, and a short-lived, very trashy UK soap called Triangle, where from what I remember as a young lad, I seem to remember quite enjoying the fact that Kate O'Mara generally didn't wear many clothes in it. So yeah, quite a fabulous actress, but she also wrote a couple of novels, as well as I think a memoir. But yeah, this is When She Was Bad, which again, like the Gold Blend book, I have actually read before. I can't remember anything about it, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go again. So that is my GarbAugust TBR, all of the weeks covered, all of the prompts on the Garb Bingo card ticked off. Whether I get through it or not remains to be seen. It is, in total, about 5,500 pages, so there's some really short books in there, but there's also Riders, which is over 900 pages, as I said. So we'll see how I get on. I can definitely read that many books, that many pages in a month, and I have got some time off on holiday in August as well, so hopefully I will get through all of them. But anyway, yeah, I hope you found that interesting. Let me know what you're going to be reading for GarbAugust in the comments, and as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there, hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.